Silent scan.
Hello and welcome back. As you can see, I have a massive pile of AK magazines in front of me, and I want to talk today about identifying AK magazines between quality magazines and magazines you probably shouldn't buy, and also educate anybody on the parts of the magazine, how to check proper function of them, and what to look for when you're gonna buy a magazine, and also identifying which magazines come from where, um, depending on country of origin, like your old school metal magazines. So let's clear off the table and get started. So first off, you need to be able to identify the difference between the size of the magazine. Now this is really obvious, but typically most magazines, not just AK magazines, either come in a 10 round magazine, a 20 round magazine, a 30 round magazine, and a 40 to 45 round magazine. Now, depending on your situation, how you prefer to shoot, and a whole lot of different factors, you might choose to have one of these, or one of these, or somewhere in between. The what and why is up to you, and it doesn't really matter what others say. It's for you to decide. That being said, you need to make sure you get the right kind of magazine for your rifle, because they're not all the same. So there are many different calibers that the AK comes in. I'm going to show you 3 different magazines because that's what I have access to, and in my opinion it's the most common caliber, or common calibers, and the magazines are very similar in a sense to where you could mix them up if you didn't know what you were looking at. So first one, we have a 7.62 by 39. It has that size. Okay. These are all intermediate cartridges. Next, you have the 5.45 by 39. And last, you have a 5.56. Now these are becoming more popular. I will admit, I accidentally ordered these, trying to get these, because on the website, these were labeled for, I believe it's AK-105, that is a 5.45 AK, they mislabeled it on their website. And when I was trying to order these, I ordered these. You can see on the website how similar these are. When you're specifically looking for 5.45, that's the category you're in, but these are in there, you're gonna make the mistake. So there is, I believe, a 2.23 and a 5.56 in there. I put those in there just to show you. So depending on what caliber your AK is in, this will not fit into a 5.56 AK or a 5.45 AK. This will not fit into a 7.62 or a 5.56. This will not fit into 7.62 or 5.45. They will not hold each other either. They are different, even though, yes, these two look drastically different, but these two look similar, and these two look similar. It's easy for somebody who doesn't have experience or know the difference to make this mistake. And the reason I want to share this is because not everybody has the same level of knowledge, but one day you might have to pick up an AK and you're not sure if it takes this or this, and there's boxes of these lying around. So usually on the side of the gun, somewhere on the bottom or on the side, it will say the caliber. Most manufacturers will put on the receiver what caliber it is. So that's what you want to look for. It's either going to be on the side of the receiver or on the bottom underneath where the magazine goes, right behind the handguard. Next, I want to talk about the two different types of magazines you will find. You will have all metal magazines, or you will have a synthetic polymer magazine. I'm going to throw Bakelite into this category, even though it is somewhat of a different material than a modern polymer magazine. Let me get a different one that you can see better. Okay, here. So, this is a Tapco magazine. Some people like them, some people hate them. I've used these for a very long time. I've never had any issues. I've never had them break. I've never had them cause any issues with feeding. This is a Croatian-made magazine, made in Croatia. You should be able to see there. It says made in Croatia. It's got a little maple leaf on it. That's how you'll identify this one. There's other trickier ways to identify metal magazines, but there are pros and cons to both of these. Polymer magazines are a lot lighter, a lot more comfortable to carry long term, but they are not as durable as a metal magazine. These things are built like tanks. You could probably run it over with your truck and it will still work. As long as they stay rust free, these will function for, I would say, 100 years after they're made, if not longer. That being said, there's nothing wrong with either one of these. This is going to be a lot heavier. So if you want to use these in, let's say, your chest rig or your belt kit, you better be prepared to carry the weight. I'm talking about a dramatic difference. Right now, this one's fully loaded, this one's empty. Yes, this one is slightly heavier, but they almost feel the same in my hands. So that is something you need to think about when you're stockpiling magazines. Long-term storage, these are great because the feed lips aren't going to bend and break as long as you have a quality magazine. These might if they're not reinforced with steel, which goes on to the next section. When you're looking at magazines, you need to look at the spring, which is this part in here you can see, the follower, which is the part that pushes on the bullets so your gun can be loaded, and you need to look at the feed lips and the locking lugs, which is this piece here and this piece here. On a metal magazine, it's all going to be steel. They have some aluminum metal magazines, but those are kind of rare, and I don't recommend trying to find the most rare magazine to have a stockpile of magazines. If you're a collector, you can collect whatever you want. This is for people to have a stockpile of magazines, of loaded or unloaded magazines. That's for you to determine. And which ones, in my opinion, based on which ones I've bought in the past and from years of shooting, what I think are worth the money and are the best to stockpile right now. That may change in the future, but as of right now, this is just my opinion. So you're going to look at these, the front feed lip and the locking lip back here. You want them to be either all steel or steel reinforced. That is going to give you the strongest lockup without your magazine breaking in case you drop your gun or you drop the magazine and those break. You also want to make sure the feed lips are steel or steel reinforced. And there's a lot of polymer magazines that will have these, but you need to double check before you buy. So here is a PMag. Everyone is familiar with PMag, I would assume. It is a company that makes magazines for AKs, ARs, and a lot of different guns. This one has steel reinforcement on the locking lugs, but not the feed lips. I don't know if you can see very well. Those feed lips are very thin. If you leave this magazine loaded for a really long time, there is the possibility of your feed lips stretching and cracking, and you have bullets go everywhere. There's also a possibility if you drop these that those can break. Now if we compare it to this Tapco magazine, these are plastic, it's all polymer. So these sections are weaker than compared to this magazine, but if you look at the feed lips, they're a lot thicker. Some Tapco magazines will have steel reinforcements, some won't. Just because it says Tapco doesn't mean it's one way or the other. You have to examine the magazine if you can. I still like Tapco magazines, even though this one isn't reinforced. I would rather have this than this because I like the texturing on it, and I have had a lot better durability and function than I have with these. Not that there's anything wrong with these if you have them, but I would prefer these over these. So now we've established not all polymer magazines are the same. Some have metal reinforcements, some don't. If you're going to buy a PMag or a polymer magazine, a metal reinforced one is a lot better than one that isn't. These are both PMags, they're both 30 rounds, they both cost the same. If I'm gonna buy one, I'm gonna buy this. Depending on where you live, you can either have these, and the price may vary. So I'm not gonna tell you a price because I don't know. I haven't bought these in years, probably 2 or 3 years. Depending on where you live, the price is gonna vary and whether or not you can have these. Another polymer magazine is this one. I forget who makes these. It has a palm tree and it says USA on it. I cannot remember where I got this. I think I found this at a pawn shop and I bought it because I needed magazines. This one has thicker feed lips than the PMag. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but it also has the metal reinforced locking lugs. It's kind of hard to see because it's painted. I've seen a lot of people use these mags. I don't know if they're quality or not. I haven't really used this one a whole lot. I used it as a training mag to practice reloads. It spent its entire life pretty much void of ammunition. I see a lot of people using these, so I would come to the conclusion that they are at least a decent or okay. But to me, they are just kind of ugly. I don't like the way it feels in the hand. The texturing of it just feels off. It's very square and bulky, but that has nothing to do with the reliability of the magazine. That's all preference. So find magazines you like that fit in your hand. Try them with gloves, without gloves. Find something you like and stick to that. Moving back to metal magazines, not all metal magazines are equal. Depending on its country of origin, there is going to be a high quality and a low quality. There are plenty of websites and videos how to identify which magazine comes from what country if they're not blatantly marked like how Croatia marks theirs. So first, I'm actually gonna move this one down here. You have your Made in Korea magazines, which they're stamped right there. They're pretty obvious. This is from KSI, I believe. I picked it up because I wanted a 40 round magazine. I haven't had any issues with it, but Korean made magazines do have a reputation of failing to feed. Depending on who you talk to, they will either say they're okay to use or they're not okay to use. That is for you to decide. I am still deciding whether or not I trust these. So be aware. The same with Croatian made magazines. Some people say they're good for the price point. These are very cheap metal magazines. Some people don't like them because they have issues. Now these three over here, I think I have identified correctly, but I am not an expert, so I can be wrong. This one, I believe to be Russian based off the amount of number stamps on it and the weld patterns. You can see this one is beat to hell and the coating on it is starting to come off. This is probably one of my favorite magazines because it has multiple 22 and 77 stamps all over it. I just think it's cool. I found this at a gun show. I think I paid $20 for it. This next magazine is a Romanian magazine. I can tell this by the pattern of the stamp and the welds. This is also a good quality magazine. The same goes here. This is also a good quality magazine. The coating on it is a lot shinier and slicker. I believe this to be either Hungarian or East German based on the front feed lip. It's kind of hard to show you. There's a hole there, and the weld patterns and the stamp patterns kind of line up with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you want to look at the country of origin of who made the magazine and see whether or not they make, first off, AKs that are reliable, and secondly, magazines that are reliable. In my opinion, you cannot go wrong with anything made in Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, or Yugoslavia. I would stay away from anything made in Albania. I don't own any Chinese magazines, but people have said that Chinese products are quality. Obviously, Russian products are probably going to be top tier since they invented the stuff, but don't take my word on that. I don't know. So, in my opinion, what is available, look for Bulgarian, look for Hungarian, look for Romanian, anything out of the ex-Soviet Combloc countries that are in the Balkans, you're probably gonna do all right. Stay away from Albania, stay away from Egypt. East Germany is gonna be some of your high valuable collector things. You can find those cheap, buy them, but don't buy them just because. They're gonna be very expensive, and there's no point in paying $80 or $100 or $120 for a 30-round magazine. I forgot to mention Poland, Serbia, and I believe Finland, or some of the other Nordic countries in Europe also make AKs and AK magazines, and I believe them to also be high quality. Now, in my opinion, if I was going to buy and stockpile magazines, I really like these Bulgarian-made polymer magazines. These are the smooth slab sided magazines. They come in a lot of different colors. You can get them in whatever caliber you want. They have metal locking lugs and feed lips. These are the best of both worlds in my opinion. They're slim, they're sleek, which I like. They have the metal reinforcements, which I'm always looking for, and they're very affordable. When I bought these, which the price could be different now, I bought these last year. I paid, I believe, $11 or $12 each, and I would buy 2 to 4 at a time. You can get these in black, brown, tan, green, plum. They have different colors, and you can get them in 762, 545, and I believe 556. If you're going to go with one magazine, I would buy these. So normally, these magazines will tell you the caliber, and then they'll have this mark here, or say made in Bulgaria. I really like these magazines. They have not let me down, and they seem very durable. So this isn't me trying to sell you a product. You can buy whatever magazine you want, and you can get these at a few different online sellers if you don't find them in person. But I really like these. For long-term storage, the metal feed lips will keep you from having accidents of your magazine falling apart because it can't handle the stress of being compressed. I feel like these are very durable while still being lightweight, and I like the look to them. I like the way they feel in the hand. They have enough variety here in the front where I really feel I can grab it, but it's not all this weird ribbed stuff. The next part of this video is more up to you on what you want to do. But now that you have bought several magazines and you have maybe anywhere from, someone is at the door. I'm sorry about that. So you have now bought anywhere from 10 to 20 magazines. Whether they're loaded or not, this next part doesn't matter. You need to be able to tell magazines apart. You might have different ammunition in there. You might have some that are for training, some are for serious use, some are for long-term storage, or maybe different kits. The best way to do that is to either label these with tape or Sharpie. Whatever you decide to label these with is completely up to you, and how you decide to label them is completely up to you. I'm sorry. You can use a letter system, a number system, a color system. It does not matter. You can use all three at once. So, let me show you some examples. Here, I have this one. It is a 545 mag. It's Tapco. It's green. I wrote Tolonika on it. This is the only magazine I have like this. This one stays in my AK all the time. These two magazines, these were the first two magazines I ever bought. I hand painted this camo pattern on here. These are the only two I have like this. One says 001. The other one says 002. I know I have two of these, and that these are the only two that exist. Here are three I have with numbers and tape. Now, the tape was for when I was running these in my chest rig. One has two white stripes. One has a blue and white stripe. And one has two blue stripes. So that's what I would know. I would have one on one side and one on the other. I would know where I'm at, which one I have out, because of the tape color. Next, they have a number on them, 141. I know it's backwards to you, but it says 141. This is 241, and this is 341. The reason I did that is because I have three of these. So you have 1, 2, 3. Now the 41 is how much I have loaded in it. These are a 45 round magazine, but they have feeding issues when you load them all the way. I found if I load it to 41, I don't have issues. So I wrote 41 on there. So I remember to only load 41 rounds in them, and that's how many they have. Next. I have several of these Bulgarian 545 magazines. I have two in each color. So this one has an A, this one has a B. It's on both sides. The reason I did this is because I run this in my chest rig. So I will have A and B behind it. The same with A and B behind it. So I know I've went through A, I've went through B, I've went through A, I've went through B. When I get to this one, I know this is my last mag because it's brown and it has a B on it. I start with green, I go to brown. Everything's good, now everything's shit. These are the same magazine, they're just in black. I have 01, 02, 03, and 04. I planned on buying more of these. That's why I did the numbers instead of the letters. It doesn't matter if you use letters or numbers or shapes. You can draw little dicks on them if that's what you want to do. As long as they're labeled and you have a reason for them being labeled and you remember why you labeled them, you will be a lot more organized when an emergency happens or things get really bad and you're scrambling to find, where did I put my magazine? I want this magazine, not that magazine, because they're loaded with different ammunition. You can see here, these are steel cased. These are also steel cased, but the casing has a coating on it. And I don't know if you can tell, there's a red line around the base where the casing meets the bullet. That can indicate on certain rounds what type of round it is, especially with 5.45 by 39. That will tell you what type of 7N6 it is, depending whether it has a red color, a purple color, a black color, and some will have a color around the base of the primer. It's important to learn these and know what kind of ammo you have, because they're not all the same. Here's a good example. These are both 10 round 7.62 by 39 magazines. One is the coated steel case. This is a typical 7.62 round. This is brass cased, and the tip of it is not the same as this one. This round has a different grain weight and velocity than this one, even though they both go to the same gun. That's why I have these in metal mags and these in polymer mags. I don't need to number them because I can tell them apart, because they're made out of different materials. It doesn't matter how you organize as long as you are organized. Again, you can use Sharpie or tape or both. It doesn't matter as long as you stay organized. You need to keep your ammunition in a dry, temperature-controlled space. And you need to remember where it's at. Is it in your garage or it is in your room? Is it buried in your yard? It doesn't matter as long as you, the viewer, know where it's at. And these tips can go for any rifle, any gun, or really anything. You should be organized as possible because these things are important. I know guns seem cool and they're like toys, but there is a huge responsibility, and this shit is expensive. Not only the ammunition, but the magazines themselves. It all adds up. And when we live in a crappy economy where nobody has money except the rich elite, you need to be smart about your money. Don't just buy things to buy things. Don't just buy things because it's the trend or it looks cool. Do research, look at the prices, find where you can get it for the cheapest, and be smart with your finances. I'm not going to tell you to invest. I'm not going to tell you to do this or that because I don't know about those things. But what I can tell you is don't buy things you don't need. Eat meals that are cheap. And stockpile on things that are actually important. A lot of people will tell you you need to buy silver, you need to buy gold. Well, you can't eat silver and you can't drink gold. So stockpile a lot of food and water first. Start with 1 month, then maybe 3 months, and then maybe 6 months. Try to get to a year if that's possible. I know that takes a lot of space and a lot of work and a lot of money, but you should at least strive for something, even if it's 1 month. 1 month will be more than most people bother to do. The same with water. Ammunition is different because that's entirely depends on how fast you want to expend it. You can go through a 5,000 cachet round of ammunition very quickly, or it can last you a very long time. So let's all try to be smarter in 2026, and let's all try to work together. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was educational and you left with a lot more information or valuable information than you came here. Again, I'm going to remind you every time, get right with God, stay frosty, and act accordingly.